Hi everyone, how are you? We are now in week 13 and with me Miss Mona Lisa Pasaribu for English 4 for Diploma 3 KU32201 and we are now still discussing about the topic of writing a journal article, and this week 13 we are going to discuss about part 5, which is the discussion, conclusion and referencing. So here is the discussion. So let us check the material for this week, everyone. So the outline for the video today is we're going to have a quick review from the materials that we have in last week, and then we will talk about discussion and conclusion, and the theory and then the practice later, and then also how to write down reference for our writing project. So let's check the review first. So the question here for the review section is about data collection. Okay, so how was your data collection going? So as we have discussed last week in our practicum session, that we will this last week until this week you are going to have a data collection activity where you are going to talk about where you're going to share or distribute your questionnaires, your Google form to the respondents, and then you will get their feedback, and then you will report the feedback in the section that we have discussed last week. Okay, so I noticed that some students have shared me their questionnaires, and they are asking for my opinion about the questionnaires, and I give feedback already, and I really hope the other groups are also like this before they submit or share their questionnaires to the respondents, just to make sure that there's nothing no misunderstanding in the questions for your data collection. So we hope that for this week you have done the data collection, and you can start writing the section that we discussed last week. Okay, and if you have finished with that one, I want you to share how your data collection is going in the YouTube comments. So please give your comments in YouTube telling your updates on the data collection. If you have done, how many respondents. If you haven't done, when will you plan to do the data collection? Okay, and what's the updated activity for your data collection? Is it questionnaire design, or is it a questionnaire distribution, or is it reporting it? Okay, so please post your answer for the data collection updates in the YouTube comment. So now we'll be talking about the discussion and conclusion. So as you can see over here, this is part 5 of what we are of our writing project for journal article, and part 5 is going to talk about discussion, conclusion, and the last one will be about referencing. So let's check the material one by one. So as you can see over here, how are you going to start with the discussion? So first of all, you need to restate the overall purpose of the study. So it's very important to kind of remind the readers again of what is your overall purpose for the study, and then explain the main finding and whether the main finding actually answer the problem stated in the introduction. Okay, and then after that you need to summarize the other interesting findings from the results section. Explain how the statistical findings relate to the purpose of the study. And this one, if you find anything interesting from your data collection, then you should report it. However, if you have no interesting findings to share, then you don't have to make up a new data collection just to get something interesting from it. Okay, so that's the discussion part, and there's actually a difference between a results section and discussion section. So in the results section, like last week's topic, we are talking about what about your research, because you're talking about the user responses, then you collect the data about the user responses. So that's the result. And then the discussion section is to tell about so what after your research. So after you show the people that there is a difference between website development or information system development in previous one and the newest one, so what with that? Okay, so in that case you need to explain it in the discussion section. And then after that, in terms of data collection and experiments, so you only describe the experiments in the results section, but you interpret the significance of the findings in the discussion section. Okay, so that's the other thing that you need to know, the difference between results section and the discussion section. And then if the results section you only show or state the result, the discussion is to interpret it. Okay, and then the results section you show the data. Discussion you don't show the data anymore because you already show it in the results section. And then for the result section, obviously you will use past tense because it has been done, but in discussion section you can use past and present as required. And then for the result section, you can include non-textual elements such as tables, figures to tell about your data analysis. But in the discussion section, you may only want to use text. However, you can also refer to tables and figures as stated in the results section. Okay, so basically in the results section you talk about the the experiments, the findings, and the discussion section, as it says discussion, then it discusses the data that you have presented in the results section. So that's two different things. Okay, some I would say journals or some templates for journal articles, they actually kind of combine result section and discussion section into one. And for this, it is actually up to you. For our writing project, if you want to combine it, then you can combine it with the result and discussion section. And if you don't want to combine it, you can split it into two. If I'm not mistaken, the wording is around 950 to 1000, so divided by 2, so it's around 450 to 500 per section. Okay, so it's really up to you whether you want to combine the result and discussion section together, or you only want to discuss the result section in one part and the discussion section in one part. It's up to you. Okay, so that's the discussion the discussion section. Now here is an example for the discussion section. So as I've mentioned in previous slide, that we need to restate again, kind of remind the readers about your purpose, the purpose of the study. Then you need to explain about it. Okay, so it wants to investigate the user's perspective on website construction. So you kind of explain what's the result of the result of the result section, the data collection, and then after that you kind of highlight only the main parts that you think is necessary or important to tell to the audience or to the readers. And then you can also talk about the interesting findings that you got along the data collection, if you have any. So for example, over here I have, although some percent agree, some disagree due to the extensive buttons in the mockup. This indicated that UI can also problematic for some users, even though it's not something major. So this is something that you want to point out to the readers, that this is not what I expect, but I want to tell it, and I want to tell it to the readers. So that is something that you can report as well in your discussion section. Okay, so this is the example for the discussion section. Okay, so that's for the discussion. Now let's move on to the next one, which is about the conclusion. So what is actually a conclusion? So a conclusion is not merely a summary. As you know, usually people will say a conclusion is actually a summary, but it's not really a summary, but it's also a synthesis of key points, and also recommendation. If applicable, where you recommend new areas for future research. So what does it mean? It means that in a conclusion part in a journal article, it is strongly recommended or strongly suggested that a writer opens a new topic for future research. So for example, if you're talking about user interface, then probably the other future research can talk about the back end of the development of this information system, for example. Okay, so later when the readers read your journal article, they will find out that there is a possible discussion after I read. There's a possible research after I read this article. Okay, and that is why research never ends, because after you finish the research, you will end up giving another question for the future research. Okay, so that happens in the conclusion part. So let's have a look at the importance of a good conclusion. So what is a well-written conclusion? So it provides you with important opportunities to demonstrate the reader your understanding of the research problem. So it includes presenting the last word on the issue you raise, so the problem that you raise and what you want to answer, and how it has been addressed through your experiments or your data collection and your research. Okay, and then after that, you want to demonstrate the importance of your idea, why this is necessary to be discussed, and then this one is the recommendation. So you introduce the possible new or expanded ways of thinking about the research problem. So you kind of want to give ideas for future researcher to discuss about these new topics of your new perspective of your topics, for example. Okay, so that's the example. That's how you want to write down a good conclusion. And here is an example of a conclusion part. So you kind of want to give the key points, and then after that you also give the recommendation. So for example, I gave over here in a bullet. Of course, when you're presenting in a conclusion, you're not going to do it in bullet ideas, but you make it in paragraphs. Yeah, so investigating users' perspective is necessary in order to find out how effective an application is built for a particular purpose. So you kind of want to bring it into a general idea, and then after that you talk about the gap that you have discussed in the previous I think it's introduction and literature review part, and then after that you bring to the result. You bring to what you have found in the result section, and how it indicates. And make sure that you do it briefly, because summary is only, conclusion is actually very brief. Yeah, so it doesn't have to take too much. And then after that, in the last part, you talk about how you recommend this for future research. Okay, so it is recommended to investigate other aspects, such as, for example, I think how the developer themselves see this UI, for example, something like that. Or maybe talk about the necessity to discuss about the back-end process in the information system development, for example. Okay, so that's the example of giving recommendation for future research. Okay, now we will move on very quickly to the reference writing. So why are we actually doing reference for in a journal article. Obviously, you don't want to be called as a plagiarist, because it is something against academic notion, I reckon. Okay, so that's something that you need to do. So acknowledging the other writer is necessary, and then accurate and adequate referencing will help you avoid accusations of plagiarism. And for a referencing format, please check the documents attached in this week's material. And as you can see in the documents that is attached in this week's material, the journal for our project, we're going to use APA format. Okay, so let's have a look at the example of APA referencing style. So the first one is you need to tell the surname, the last name of the writer, and then the abbreviation of first name and second name. And then if there are two, then you need to address, if there are more than one, then you need to address all of them. And then the year, and then the title of the book, if this one is book, and then the place where it was published, and the name of the publisher. And then if you want to do it in a citation, in citation, then you use open bracket Glendining Farnsworth and fall 2013. And for further information about the referencing for APA style, please check the documents that I have attached in our campus information system. Okay, and that actually should bring us to the end of our material for this week, everyone. So we have discussed about discussion, conclusion, and referencing. So by the end of this week, I really hope that you have finished with all of these sections writing, and then you can move on. For next week, we'll discuss about abstract and a little bit about summary, a little bit of looking at how you have progressed for the whole parts of your writing. Okay, thank you very much everyone for watching this video, and I hope to see you in our practicum session. If you have a problem with your writing, you are most welcome to ask me or Ibu Julie. Thank you and have a good day everyone. Goodbye.